Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us right now our conservative future, all the way from South Carolina, Mr. Andrew Hinton.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me.
So, just to preface this whole conversation, me and Andrew are actually cousins. But the funny thing about it is, most people would play the devil's advocate to that and say, well, of course he's conservative. They're related. It runs in the family. But me and Andrew actually didn't meet until we were in college. And I think our very first conversation ever was about Trump. So, we knew we got along just fine when we started talking about Trump at Thanksgiving. So Andrew is originally from New Hampshire. So he is from the northeast part of the country. So Andrew, tell us why you're a conservative, how this happened.
How this happened. I was born in Massachusetts, but I was raised in New Hampshire. All of my childhood and all of my memories of the Northeast are basically centered on New Hampshire. And a lot of people don't know that New Hampshire is a swing state, so we have a lot of presidential candidates that will come through and visit us. It is a highly political state.
So that's interesting because Arkansas, at this point, we used to be a Democrat state, but now, we're hardcore red. So rarely do we get politicians that think we're even worth their time. So that's interesting that you say that.
Well, yeah, the paradox for us is we're such a small state. I think we have a little bit over 1 million people. And we get so much political coverage when it comes to these elections. Like coming up here, we're going to have tons of presidential candidates for the Democrats coming over and trying to win us over. I think we have Warren trying to woo us the most right now. But growing up in New Hampshire, the high school that I went to was very college prep focused, but it was also extremely liberal leaning. The professor, they aren't professors, but they had us calling them by their first names. There was no school bell. It was very college-esque, if you will. But all of the teachers there were very liberal in their mindset, and it was it was definitely hard growing up there because all of them were just trying to teach you their worldview and to have you think like them. There was no let me teach you how to think, let me teach you what to think. And whenever they would host a debate or a kind of like a forum in their class, it would be, okay, I let you talk, but your viewpoint is wrong, and here's why you need to accept mine. So I would definitely say, I've been to the South, so I understand that the South is much more conservative. It's a completely different culture than the Northeast. The Northeast, you have to understand that a lot of the people that you would see as liberal, even to the point of maybe embracing socialism and communism right now, have been taught to think that. And they don't really get the chance to ask themselves why. Me being who I was going through high school, I was very stubborn. I get that from my family. Not the side that you and I share, however, the other side, from Kentucky. But I was very stubborn, and my family was definitely there saying, why are they teaching you this, and why are you taking what they say at face value without questioning it? And that's something that stuck with me ever since then. No matter what a teacher or professor tells me is the right answer, I'm going to have to go back and check it myself. So definitely fact checking is one of the reasons why I consider myself a level-headed conservative coming out of there. I'm not crazy radical. They would call me crazy radical for believing in freedom of speech and such. They have this concept of ultimate utopia coming to earth through their liberal, progressive ideals. And I was always there to remind them that human beings are flawed, fallible, and will find ways to break the rules and take advantage of each other, which I find most Northeast liberals do not like to talk about.
See, so that's funny that you say it was your, refusal to groupthink that brought you to conservatism, because one thing that I'm really passionate about is conservatism is just the truth. And most people who seek the truth eventually land on conservatism. So were you able to be open about your political beliefs, or did you just kind of keep them to yourself? Did you not talk about them, or were you a devil's advocate to them?
I generally, by nature, try to be devil's advocate. But growing up where I did and when I did in New Hampshire and the environment that I did, there wasn't really anyone else advocating for the conservative side. I mean, to give you an idea of how it kind of happened, and this really was formative on me. I didn't think it would be at the time, but it ended up becoming very formative. The very first day of ninth grade, because the way that we moved through our school system is you first through sixth, then you go and you go into middle school from 7th to 8th, and then from 8th you go into the high school. So your very first day of ninth grade, where you've been mixed in with a whole bunch of other people from 8th grade that you weren't previously associated with, we sat down in our teams, and there were about 3 teams of about, I want to say it was a little bit over 30 people per team. You sat down with them in a large auditorium, and they have on one side of the wall agree, on the other side of the wall disagree, and they would say something to the effect of, do you believe that X is constitutional, right, and moral? And X could be any topic at all. It could be anything ranging from being fiscally responsible to abortion to whatever have you. And they would say, do you agree or disagree? So then people would move from the center to whatever side they fell on, agree or disagree. And I thought that was going to be the end of it at the time. But then they said, okay, we're now going to open the floor to debate. And the teachers would then question you or allow your peers to question you on why you held that view. And then they would allow you to move. So I found myself on every single issue, a social conservative and a fiscal conservative. And it was about 50-50 in the beginning, 15 on one side, 15 on the other. But then the accusatory tone and the questioning, like leading people on, drew people away from the conservative side over to the progressive side. And just by nature, I thought, okay, no one here can play devil's advocate. They've removed that from the table. I can't fall into that natural spot I like to occupy. I have to be that almost dissenting voice every single time. So whenever any topic got brought up and they all came to a consensus, yes, this is what we think and what we agree, I would be that voice countering it because it was firmly what I believe, but also because I'm like, you guys need to understand there are people out there that disagree with you on this on a rational, logical basis, and it's not a strict emotional appeal like there seems to be sometime. And you need to sit down and be able to reason with me. You can't have this almost allergic reaction to my ideas and my beliefs and just shun me. You have to confront me. You have to deal with me. That's part of life. If that answers your question.
Absolutely. So one thing that I have come to find through my years, in college and because, college was a new world for me. College was the first time that I was the minority in my beliefs, but it made me a stronger conservative because it made me think. And so it sounds like that was kind of your experience starting well before it even started for me, that you were challenged. And so you had to even further seek the truth, which solidified your beliefs.
I would absolutely agree with that, yes.
So you went to Liberty University, which is probably incredible. It's incredible for me, and so I know our viewers are going to think that's incredible. So tell me about your time there and your experience at Liberty, and was it different from high school since they're generally a more conservative school?
Yes. So part of the reason why I chose Liberty is I literally told myself, you've dealt with 4 years of craziness and people who firmly disagree with you and have done their best to pull you over to their side, propagandize you. Why not go to a conservative school where you can at least relax and see what I wouldn't say mainstream conservative ideas are, but at least a conservative university that is preaching these conservative values. So I headed off to Liberty University, and I was not disappointed. The faculty there, the ability to be mentored by them and have them teach you truly conservative values, I would say, I am biased because I went there, I would say it was unparalleled. I started out as a government major before I switched over into science. So I got exposure to a lot of brilliant government professors that had been in either law, like politics and policy, or had been studying abroad at embassies and such. And they brought back this really, I would almost say, seasoned or mature appreciation of what America is in comparison to the rest of the world. And that's not something I saw in high school. I didn't have this cadre of teachers around me in high school that had gone abroad and come back and seen the world for what it was, and then see America as this shining beacon on a hill. I had a whole bunch of teachers that had only been in America and complained about how it could be better. Having these teachers at Liberty, they were like, oh no, we've been abroad and America is this beacon on a hill, and here is why. It wouldn't just be the law and the government studies, but it'd be their own experience as well. And they brought that to the table, and that ignited a passion in me to not only appreciate America more and dig in and study it more, but it also definitely made my beliefs and my values, any sort of questions I had on being a conservative, were eliminated after that first year. I was like, yes, I'm well-reasoned, I'm not alone, and their experiences definitely meet and match my beliefs and understanding of the world. And that was a really good period of mentorship that I wouldn't have traded for anything.
So that's really interesting, because I was also a science major in college. And every single one of my professors would comment on Trump and the obviously very liberal. I did not have one single professor not lecture on him, totally out of their purview of the class. I mean, we'd be talking about microbiology, and then that professor was comparing Trump to Stalin. I kid you not. That's a comparison they made. And so it's interesting how starkly different, me and my conservative state than you, in a more liberal atmosphere, which of course you're a little bit sheltered at Liberty. But Liberty had a whole different take on the Trump situation.
Yes.
So y'all have had multiple encounters with Trump. So tell me about those.
So for those who don't know, Liberty was not only, from the get-go, they actually weren't in Trump's corner. It developed into that sort of relationship, from my opinion, maybe halfway through that whole primary season. But initially, it was Ted Cruz that came, and he was the first one to announce his presidential run. So a lot of people think that maybe Liberty had it out to support Trump from the beginning. I don't think they made up their mind until later to really, back him. He had visited several times. He had visited, I think it was my sophomore year, where he had came, and he had tried to reach out to us, knowing that we're an evangelical college. He decided he was going to go through the Bible and find a verse that really he thought would speak to us. So a lot of people that read the Bible know, for example, that there's 1st and 2nd Kings. Apparently, Trump did not at the time know it was supposed to be 1st and 2nd Kings. So reading with his signature finger up in the air, off the teleprompter, or his notes, rather, he said, my favorite verse is 2 Kings, 2nd, and then he tried to reach out, and we started laughing. I mean, we appreciated that he had tried to talk to us and what he perceived was our language, but it was still one of those signature moments where we're like, oh, he tried. He really reached out and tried to get a hold of us on our level. But even when he was there before he ran, there's an energy about him that is very different than other candidates that we had who came there. I mean, we even had Bernie come, and that was just uncomfortable. That was like an hour of uncomfortableness. Nobody clapped, nobody cheered. He just pushed his agenda, and we sat there quietly and listened. Trump brought an energy where he knows how to engage with people on a personal level, almost from wherever he's at. He knows how to see what's important to the crowd and see how they're reacting and really touch and go on that. So he has his platform, but he will really dial in on what he can sense is important to them. So anyway, about halfway through the primary season, it became more apparent that we were going to, as a university, as a university, we were still going to vote for who we're going to vote for. There was no pressure, you should vote for this candidate or that candidate. But people had generally made up their minds by that point who they supported. I think he came for commencement and delivered an amazing commencement speech that really, kind of choked me up. When he sits down, he has those patriotic speeches. I can't help but think of like Ronald Reagan with some of his speeches. So yeah, I think the last time he visited was his commencement speech, and since then, of course, he's been being the president of the United States. But he had that relationship with us. I think he he's even rumored to have helped build some of the dormitories and other newer buildings going up around Liberty University, because of course Liberty is in this huge expansion project right now. He said at the convocation that he was helping design the architecture. I don't know if that's true or not.
So what's cool that you say that, you know, if conservative ideas were dying, a school like Liberty wouldn't be growing. So I think that's kind of a testament to, we may be silent, but we're not as much of a minority as they think we are. Another profound thing that you said was you sat quietly and listened to what Bernie Sanders had to say when conservative commentators did not have that same courtesy at different, you know, I think it was Berkeley, that, what was it, Ben Shapiro got ran out.
Yes. That has bugged me for a while, because I used to think, you know, maybe it's not true that there's such this big divide in courtesy that you extend to people that you bring to the universities. But like I think it was after UC Berkeley, after that event, I was kind of flabbergasted that happened at all, that opportunity was even allowed to present itself. But yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, we invited, we being Liberty invited Hillary, they invited Bernie, they invited anybody from the Democratic side that wanted to come. And I think Bernie was the only one that took them up. And to really speak to the credit of Liberty, we sat there and we said, okay, we're willing to listen to your ideas, but we disagree with you, but we can be respectful. And I don't want to point the finger or group everyone on the other side into one giant pot, but I really do see, and I think the nation sees, that there's this almost allergic reaction to conservative ideals from those people. They almost can't handle the idea of us having different ideas and having a logical belief system. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Marcus Aurelius or not. No, it was Aristotle, I think. Aristotle said the hallmark of a high mind is the ability to entertain an idea without accepting it. And that is what they can't do. They cannot entertain the idea that conservative ideas, conservative values, conservative belief systems, if you will, are valid, moral, and ethical. They almost have this allergic reaction, a violent emotional reaction to those ideas. And, I mean, if you look at history, there's an issue when that happens. You can't have a democracy or a republic when certain parts of the population refuse to tolerate the ideas and beliefs of others. Democracy and the republic, representative republic in which we live in, they require that we are able to come together, sit down at the same table, come to a consensus on what we agree about, and move in that direction. And it just seems like ever since, I'd say, the late 90s, we're seeing this increased polarization of people moving further to the left and further to the right and refusing to sit down and have those conversations. And the closer we get to a deadlock, the more I'm concerned that one element of the left or one element of the right will really make that push to overwhelm the other. And right now, I don't see that coming from the right. As much as the news puts it out there that they're concerned about whatever issues are going on, I really see that coming from a populist movement of the left that is violently intolerant towards not only free speech, but the exchange of ideas and discourse. They're not even willing to sit down and have a debate, which is what I find concerning, because you have to be able to have that exchange of ideas for our republic to work.
I absolutely agree with you. And I think that is incredibly insightful for you and refreshing, because, you know, we toe the line between, are we millennials? Are we Gen Z? No one really knows. But we get kind of we get a bad rap. You know, everyone just groups us together as the socialist, lazy young people. And so I think everything that you have said today has been a nice refresher and reminder that there are those of us out there that, you know, don't group think, and we do think for ourselves, and we do have, you know, independent, sophisticated thoughts, and that there is hope for the future, even if the mainstream media, you know, wants to convince you otherwise. So Andrew, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. I hope you have the best Labor Day weekend, and I hope to get to talk to you soon.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after this break.